Welcome back to Trucking the Seven Seas. This is episode number 112, and in this episode, we're going to go over week 46 and 47 of running my own authority. For this episode, we run nothing but Amazon Relay spot market loads. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I started this channel in order to show exactly what truck drivers make. We started as a company driver, working for night transportation, moved on to a lease operator, working for night transportation, then an owner operator leased on the Landstar, and now we are an owner operator running our own authority. I show all of the loads I take, what the revenue is, what the expenses are, and what my net cash flow is, and I compile all this information that I put into a spreadsheet that I share with you at the end of every video. So if this is a topic that interests you, follow the channel. But a couple of announcements before we begin. So as already discussed, I am running Amazon Relay now. So for the past couple of weeks, I just did some local runs around Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Los Angeles in order to get my rating up. So I should have a proper rating now with Amazon, and I think as of tomorrow I should be able to start booking the block work around Tucson, Las Vegas, Phoenix, or really anywhere. So that's what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start running the blocks around Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Tucson and see how that goes. And with me running the blocks and primarily doing power only for Amazon, I am intending to sell my trailer. So that trailer kind of served its purpose. I did need a trailer when I first activated my authority because I couldn't find access to enough power only loads. So I am intending to sell it. I think I'm going to put it into the Ritchie Brothers auction that's going on in Las Vegas on like March 5th or something like that. So planning on selling it. Going to think about it for a couple more days, but that is my plan at this point. Now, my thinking behind doing that is the Amazon block work seems to be okay, right? I mean, I did that video last week breaking it down, and it seems to be okay. And also, I don't think it could be much worse than running the spot market with this trailer because, as last year indicated, it just doesn't pay well enough to do that. So, planning on doing that. And then if it doesn't work out, I mean, there's always plan B, I guess, which is to either rent a trailer from Extra Lease or whoever, and then run that way, or go buy a trailer, namely a flatbed, and start running flatbeds or something like that. So that is my plan. Sell the trailer, try to doing Amazon blocks, Amazon Relay stuff, and then if that doesn't work out, well, I can always I can always rent a trailer or go buy a flatbed or something like that. So that's that's the basic plan. But with all that said, last episode we left off in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I was taking some time off in Las Vegas just to take care of personal errands and just get my authority reactive and just take care of a bunch of stuff. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks. So I didn't take too many loads. And then got access to Amazon Relay and I started running their loads. However, these were all very local loads. And because of that, they were like super short. So I think I did like, I'm looking at my spreadsheet right now. Looks like about 6 local runs just around Las Vegas, just again trying to get a few loads in, because you have to run 10 loads, is my understanding, in order to get a proper rating. So I was just doing a bunch of loads over and over and over again just to try to get a proper rating. And then I did a couple of runs to Phoenix slash Tucson, and then a couple of runs to the LA area. Just kind of short runs back and forth, but there were about I think I counted them 14 loads that I did in the last 2 weeks, and they were all a lot of them were just super short. So with that said, I'm actually not going to get into the whole map, travel boast map thing that I usually do because there's just too many runs. It's going to take too long, and they were all like, some of them were like 10 or 20 miles, and I'm just not going to bother with it. So with all that said, I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to run this a little differently, and I'm just going to hop right into the spreadsheet right now because the runs I did were too short and too many to actually do the travel boast thing. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to hop straight into the spreadsheet right now. All right, so as discussed, we're going to cover week 46 and 47. And as you're looking at it right now, you could probably see why I didn't do the travel boasting. This is just week one, and I think there's like 10 loads on this week alone. And most of them are just local Las Vegas runs. Because again, you have to get 10 loads on Amazon Relay in order to get a rating and to my understanding it didn't matter whether the load was like a 20-mile load or like a 2,000-mile load. So I just started hopping a bunch of little short loads around Las Vegas, and then later on I started to spread my wings a little bit and go to Fontana and then Tucson and stuff like that. But if you're just kind of listening to this right now in week 46 there's like 10 loads, and then week 47 there's like 4 loads, and they're all like 20 miles, 166 miles, stuff like that. So that's why I didn't do the travel boast. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to cover week 46 and 47 right now. So for week 46, we did 10 loads. In those 10 loads, we got 1,160 miles. Paid a total of $3,095 at $2.67 per mile. Fuel expense, we fueled up 3 times. In those 3 times, we paid $783 at 68 cents per mile. Maintenance expense, we did a PM on our APU, and we also had a DOT inspection for the truck for a total of $650 at 56 cents per mile. Other expenses, scales $14, permits $279, tools $122 for a total of $417 at 36 cents per mile. Fixed costs, APU payment came in at $418. Our OmniTrax payment came in at $39 for a total of $457 at 39 cents per mile. All right, totals for week 46. Total expenses were $2,308 at $1.99 per mile. Total revenue was $3,095 at $2.67 per mile. That brought a net settlement to $786 at 68 cents per mile. All right, caveats for week 46. As already discussed, a bunch of loads here. Most of these were local to Vegas. I did go to St. George for a load, which got canceled. And then I tried to grab a load from St. George at that same facility, and it also got canceled. Now, you do get $175 for these cancellations on Amazon, but that was a little disappointing. I think the load going to St. George paid like $400, and then I booked a load going from that same facility in St. George for also $400, but both of them got canceled. And as I'm learning about Amazon, I'm noticing a lot of these loads do get canceled, so that is noteworthy. So there was some of that. And again, for those of you who are listening, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did 5 local runs in Vegas. I'm talking like 20-mile, 11-mile runs, stuff like that. And then after that, I started to get a little more, I had a little bit better understanding for how the load board worked. And then I ran from Las Vegas to Fontana, and then San Bernardino to Las Vegas, and then Las Vegas to Tucson for the ending of the week. And that was pretty much the week, though, but it was just mostly local runs. And I was just sort of hauling whatever I could get my hands on just to get my rating up. And it paid, somewhat okay, and worked out somewhat okay. But that's what week 46 was. So, again, 10 loads, mostly local runs. And, yeah, that's what we did. All right, and then maintenance expenses. I did a PM on my APU. So I PM my APU roughly once per year. I don't run it that much anymore, and last year I didn't run it too much at all because I was running the Midwest during the summer, and now I'm in the South, Phoenix area for the winter. So that's actually kind of a big advantage I'm noticing is, I'm running the Midwest in the summer, which is fairly cool, so I don't have to run my APU as much, and then I'm running, the desert over here in the winter. So that's working out pretty good. But yeah, PM'd my APU, and then I did a DOT inspection for my truck, just a basic DOT inspection. So yeah, that's about it there on the maintenance expense, nothing too special. And then some other expenses. I did another 1-year subscription to a drug consortium. I just renewed the one I already had. Stuff like that. Tools, $100 on tools. And then for fixed costs, APU payment came in, and that was about it. Pretty standard week in terms of fixed and variable costs. So that was week 46. Now let's go ahead and move on to week 47. For week 47, we did 4 loads. In those 4 loads, we got 997 miles. Paid a total of $1,604 at $1.61 per mile. Fuel expense, fueled up 2 times. In those 2 times, we've paid $511 at 51 cents per mile, and there were no maintenance expenses. Other expenses, none. Fixed costs, insurance premium came in at $4,573 at $4.59 per mile. All right, totals for week 47. Total expenses were $5,085 at $5.10 per mile. Total revenue was $1,600 at $1.61 per mile. That brought our net settlement to negative $3,481 at negative $3.49 per mile. All right, caveats for week 47. I did take a couple of days off on this week. So after the previous week, I dropped a load in Tucson, and then I had some family in Tucson, so I went ahead and visited them for a couple of days. So this is missing about 2.5 days. So there's that. And again, just trying to keep it local. I did try to run Vegas to Tucson / Phoenix and back and forth, but it didn't work out too well. I'm going to be honest here. And I'm currently in Phoenix right now. So I actually tried to book this one yesterday, and it didn't work out. and it got canceled. So I'm actually still in Phoenix, and I'm still trying to book a load back to Vegas, but it's not working out so well. So that is what happened here. A couple of days missing, and also I'm just having trouble getting out of Phoenix/Tucson because it's not as good as I was hoping. So yeah, there's that. So not a very good week at all for those two reasons. Okay, and then the big daddy, you're probably noticing insurance premium. So this is my down payment on my new insurance policy. I did switch from Progressive, and now I'm at Great West. If you guys were wondering, I did get a policy quote for $22,000 for the year, which is about $1,800 per month. So my authority is 1 year active. My insurance premium did go down by about $200. So that's good, and it went down by $200 while I increased the coverage because in order to haul for Amazon, I needed more coverage. So previously, on my progressive policy, I didn't have trailer interchange, and I also had to upgrade some of the aggregate policies. Like you can look at Amazon's requirements; they have a little bit more in terms of requirements. So this is my insurance premium. It was 20% down for the first payment, basically. And yeah, long story short, I upgraded my insurance and then changed my insurance policy. And because my authority was 1 year active, I upgraded the insurance, but the policy price actually went down because of the 1 year of active authority. So that was kind of nice. So I did change insurance premiums. This is a down payment and the first month pay, so that's why it's so high. But now I'll only be paying $1,800 for more coverage versus last year. So that's a good development. That helps a little bit, but that is what that is right there. So $4,500, that's a 20% down payment on my new insurance policy. Okay, and then yeah, you can see what's happening right here. About 1,000 miles, huge expenses, and not much revenue equals a terrible week. Not typical, obviously. This right here is going to kill, that's just going to kill the week no matter what you do. So that's what's going on there. That is week 47. So let's go ahead and move on to the overalls now. All right, total since starting my own authority, we have driven a total of 103,000 miles. Total expenses has been $123,000 at $1.20 per mile, and that is my cost per mile. Total revenue has been $197,000 at $1.91 per mile. That brings our total profit loss to $73,000 at 71 cents per mile, and all of these loads are dry van. Averages and other information. Average weekly paycheck is $1,500. Average weekly miles is 2,200 miles. Total fuel cost has been $46,000 at 45 cents per mile, and we are paying an average of $3.52 per gallon. Total maintenance cost has been $30,000 at 29 cents per mile. And if we kept this up for a 52-week period, we'd make $81,000 and drive 115,000 miles. Total revenue has been $197,000 at $4,000 per week. Total deadhead has been 10,000 miles at 10% of total mileage. We've been employed 327 days, or 47 weeks, taken 40 days off, 287 days on duty, 128 total loads. Average load length is 808 miles, and if we had a theoretical $500 per week truck payment, we would have made $50,000 at 48 cents per mile. All right, so week 47, 46, not good. And overall, we're looking terrible. So 71 cents per mile, $73,000 with a paid off truck is awful. That is terrible. And yeah, that's what we're looking at here. And if you include if you had a $500 per week truck payment, I think this cell right here is probably one of the more useful ones. If I had a $500 per week truck payment, we'd be at 48 cents per mile. And I think this is probably a more accurate depiction of what I'm actually making out here. Again, I'm not bragging about any of this. I'm just showing you guys my numbers so you have a better idea of what it's like out here. 48 cents per mile, obviously terrible. And if you even wanted to go a little bit further, you could minus my startup costs, which were 18,000. So let's do a little math here. And you might even consider it 31 cents per mile for this year if you include the startup costs, depending on how you want to look at that. So that is just ridiculous. That is ridiculously bad. 2025, it could have gone worse. I could have went under, but that's what we're looking at right now. 71 cents per mile. I mean, that's terrible. Now, it is going to go up a little bit. So this did drop about around 9 cents per mile ever since peak season ended. So it's going to go up a little bit from here. I did take a lot of time off in January, and it is the slow season. And then, of course, I did pay this Whopper premium right here. So that's what's going on there. But still, there's no way to sugarcoat this, right? This is just terrible. And got one more year. Going to keep going for one more year and see where we're at. And if this looks like if these numbers don't change next year, I am definitely not going to continue this. There's no way. Gonna start running for Amazon. Gonna start running some power only. I'll probably also sign up for, I think, Night Swift and some of the other companies I can also haul for in terms of doing the power only stuff, and we'll see how that goes. I am a little bit more optimistic this year in terms of what we can do here. First year is done. I now have access to basically every broker or like power only loads like Amazon or Night Swift, stuff like that. I can get access to a lot more loads now, so it should go a little bit better. And also, they are cracking down on these foreign illegal operations, so that's good. And I'm a little bit more optimistic for 2026. We'll see how it goes. But again, I'm not bragging about any of this. I'm just showing you guys my numbers, and these numbers are horrific. These are horrific numbers, and it needs to get better. I got one more year. The truck's still solid. There's 360,000 miles on my truck, if you guys were wondering. So I can get quite a bit more use out of it. But even with me getting the use out of it, I mean, this is probably a more accurate depiction of what I'm making on the regular. It's about 50 cents per mile, which is just not acceptable, right? So that is where we are at. Gonna run this for, well, this spreadsheet right here I will run for about another month or so. So at the end of March, or at the beginning of March, I will start a new spreadsheet, because that brings me to the 52-week mark. So really, I'm going to run it for, about 5 more weeks, give or take. And then I will start a new spreadsheet because that'll be a 1-year timeline. And then we'll go from there. But that's where we're at. I do expect these numbers to bump up a little bit in the coming month, in the next 5 weeks, but I don't think it'll be anything too earth-shattering. I'll probably go back up to 75 cents per mile, somewhere in that range if I had to guess, and that's where we're going to stay. And that's where we're at. But that will pretty much do it for this episode. Pretty down and dirty. Next episode, I should be running the blocks, I would think. So I should have at least 1 week of block running, because I should get access to blocks tomorrow if my understanding of how Relay works is correct. And then I'll get access to it tomorrow, but then I have to book the blocks like a week out. So I'll get access to it tomorrow, and then I'll start booking blocks for the following week. So that's what's probably going to happen there. So I might be stuck with the spot market, the Amazon spot market, for another week or two, or week or so, and then start running blocks. And I think the blocks should work out okay. But that's where we're at. But yeah, if you guys are interested in this spreadsheet or any of the other spreadsheets I've done in the past, you can find them in the About section down below. After you find them, just click File, Download them to a Microsoft Excel sheet, and then after you download them to an Excel sheet, you're free to use them however you please. And if you need a factoring company, I use OTR Solutions. I'm not just talking you a product I don't actually use. When I need to factor a load, I do use them, and I am using their fuel card. There's a link in the About section down below as well, and if you click that link and use that link, it does help me out a ton, so please feel free to check them out. And then if you want to just donate to me directly, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link in the About section down below. YouTube does take like 40% of the super thanks, so Buy Me a Coffee is a lot cheaper. It's only like 3%, so feel free to use that. But that will pretty much do it for this episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.